Hello, beloved. I'm Monica Bermudez. Welcome back to my podcast. In this episode, I want to talk about falling in love with yourself. So, I've talked about self love in many different forums and different platforms in different ways. In this episode, though, I want to focus it more on the new energies and the ascension, the new human, and what that all means as far as how it impacts our life and all the benefits to being in this form of love for self. And I know that this has never been taught in school, at least in the school that I grew up with. And I don't really think even now the schools are not teaching it, but it is important for all of us to know about falling in love, which, of course, I'll also discuss my own personal experience with this and also discuss some of the scientific evidence as well in regards to the benefits of falling in love. And so, what we have been conditioned very differently through the old system of the earth, because now that we are more into this new earth frequency, and really 2024 is the more intense year. It's like the peak of the year to make these huge transformational changes for ourselves within, but also in the collective. And so, since this episode, which is coming out in February, which is the beginning of February, in the United States, they celebrate the holiday of Valentine's, which, of course, it's very commercialized, but really, because love is it's every day and it's always in every second, millisecond. um, but which is why I wanted to emphasize this topic to discuss about falling in love with self. And the way, we've operated in the old system is that we look for love externally, or we think of, love as being romantic with someone else in a relationship and so forth. And so oftentimes, so, that's great, that's fine, but in order to enhance, healthier relationships and to activate more of the law of attraction, it's much more suitable that or it's stronger, let's just say, of building the foundation with the self-love within yourself first. So I've had clients who have um come to me for assistance as far as like opening up their heart, and even though they're in a relationship, a marriage, or some form of relationship, they just feel like they can't open their heart, or there is this wall of some kind of resistance, something that is in the way. And it's not that they're often in this, fear mode or anything like that. It doesn't mean that they don't love their partner. It's just that part of it also is because of some of this subconscious buried patterns that have been there, especially for star seeds and light workers, who carry certain trauma from previous lifetimes that may have triggered some kind of grief or something else that was very dramatic in that lifetime, before, transitioning out of that body in that role. And so it probably created this stagnant energy, which is what I found, in some of my clients. And so I've helped, them to open up their hearts in different ways, expanding and opening their hearts in ways that they could never have imagined in a human form, or uh, from a human way of thinking, because this is beyond our human analytical side. I'm talking about going deeper within the soul and connecting to a higher power of divine source of all that is, because we all have this divine powerful force within ourselves, which is that of universal love. And so that is the biggest foundation, is building on this self-love within yourself, that will activate the law of attraction in healthier, calling in healthier relationships. But it's not just that. I mean, there's countless benefits behind it that I have found myself, and it produces this amount of joy, and the joy that it also attracts others, the soul tribes or people you may resonate with more that also vibrate at this, frequency of joy as well. And so you will also attract more abundance of all kinds, whether that's through money or financial means, or that is through other resources and even time and energy, because you're pretty much replenishing yourself, or you're filling your own cup, let's just say, of your own energy. And that energy which you're pulling from this, bigger universal force of energy, which is infinite. So you're tapping into the infinite that you are within, the infinite love that you hold within yourself. And so there, and oftentimes, though, with fear or any aspect of fear that is, shadow like, or that is of lower vibrational frequency, it just creates more of this of closure, and it shuts you down from your own divine source of infinite power that you hold within yourself, because universal love is an infinite power source. And so this is a very recharging type of energy. And so with, fear, what it does, it just creates more of this wall and this resistance. So it closes you up or shuts down that flow of that energy, of that universal love within. So sometimes when we're trying to open our hearts, for anything, it feels like there could be a wall or some kind of resistance, because there is this subconscious, level of protection of, not wanting to be hurt again, because maybe in some of these past lives, what I have found with my clients in past lives, where they had really traumatic or dramatic experiences where they just, shut down their heart because it was just too painful. And some of these, instances have been about being burned at the cross, or being burned at a stake, for instance, um, being, shut out by society because they didn't fit the norms of society. So they would be banished. And so a lot of that closed, their heart because of the pain and the grief and the loss and anything else, that accompany that. And the with that, also led to regrets, or not being able to forgive, self for whatever mistake, in that lifetime. And, on the other hand, too, that some of this was being carried within the ancestral lineage, when it comes to a lot of, like, for instance, the indigenous, or even like other cultures that may have suffered, as a whole, where your family or someone may have experienced, very traumatic experience, like rape, for instance, or any other form of cruelty, of torture, within that culture, um, that leaked, as wounds, and they would come in as mother wounds or father wounds. And so all of these also are a factor for shutting down the energy flow of the infinite source power that you hold within yourself. So we are now here in these new energies, and these new energies are actually pulling a lot of that stuff out of us, which is what all of these solar flares and all of these human resonance increase of the heartbeat of Earth and other astrological events all at once are just, in a way, just pulling all of that from a subconscious level of, of intensity than ever before, because we are in a very accelerated time of ascension and transformation, of creating this new world order, and being more in this flow of these energies. Because also, like, with the fear and the shadow, it creates more of this individual. It's about the individual, and it's more separation. And so the way we've been taught is about competition with one another, which is more individual, which is more um is it individual, and also about just being separated. I was trying to find a word and I just said it too. So being more individual and being separated from one another. And so this competition creates this stress, of being better, and it creates more of this comparison. So like if we lose, then you start to create all these stories within yourself, that and stories that also just come up as well, where you feel like you're not worthy because, or you're not valuable because you've lost. So in these new frequencies of energies, which are more about unities, all about the collectiveness, there is no such thing as separation. It's more of this energy flow of one another, and knowingness that that energy flow, which is more open, and your heart becomes more expansive, and you get to know more about yourself. And even through like really tough times or any kind of chaos, that love is still there. And one of the things that I hold within myself, one of my abilities, is this very unique encodements of the heart and putting it together. So more of like the chakra repair. And so the heart, which is one of the foundations that I always talk about, these very unique encodements, which combine the upper heart chamber and the lower heart chamber of the chakras, that come together in this molding of energies. And they support one another, because your upper heart chakra is about the compassion, is about unity, and the lower heart chakra is the one that I feel experiences more of some of the human aspects, which, because we're still in this human body, but we're being rewired and being created into, or let's just say metamorphosis is probably the right word, into these new humans. Um, the ones that hold more of these light encodements, which is what's really happening to us, that we are receiving a lot of these new encodements within our own cell and our DNA. And so that's why it's creating a lot of all other, sorts of things that are um, happening in our life as well, like certain ascension symptoms. And also, what it's doing, it's expanding our consciousness, because our consciousness is everywhere within us, and can be found even at the cellular level. And so that in itself is, what's causing that, the more light, that we're being filled with, the more that a lot of the shadow aspect cannot be held within, which is going to come out one way or another. And so just as we're experiencing all this, so is Mother Earth. So then that's why we'll see a lot of things moving or fluctuating, or certain weather patterns as well, around the world, because we're all being impacted in one way or another. So Mother Earth is also releasing a lot of things that, she's already been holding, like all the wars that have occurred on the different lands, right? And even now, like we see some in some other countries where there's still this friction, this conflict, and this war breaks out. It's because that was already at a boiling point, and it just some way it needed to be released in itself, for others to see that it's there. And so it's there for its own purging and its own cleansing. And so when, my own personal experience with all this, right? I remember because I've been first of all been doing a lot of work within myself, and that all really started after the divorce, where I decided that I really wanted to clean up a lot of patterns within myself. And I explored and looked at every angle that I could possibly think of, all karmic, all things associated with ancestral, generational, um, things that were more traumatic and drama within my own family dynamics, but also at the soul family level. And so a lot of that I was starting to clean up within myself, and I also asked for mentors, and I worked with, mentors as well to help me clear up some other areas as well too. Um, and so with all of that assistance, combination of all that, it eventually had this big breakthrough. And in that breakthrough, I remember when I first, fell in love with myself. And it was as if when I looked at myself, right, I was looking at my hands, for example. It was as if I was looking at my hand for the first time, or just looking at myself for the very first time. And I saw just beauty. And it was so explosive. And it was just so like, it was like this honeymoon effect. Let's just say like a honeymoon feeling to it. And so I really felt that I had just rediscovered myself. And so it was just like I was just rediscovering myself all over again. And I recognized that I was aware that I still had these shadow aspects within myself, and also the other beautiful aspects of myself, my own, other abilities. And I saw the combination of all of them. And it's almost like I saw them as this observant, it's like I was seeing it through like the eyes of my soul. And what I was seeing was just pure love and just beauty. And so it didn't matter, how whatever shadow I had or whatever I felt, that was still there, that it was, dark. I was just in love with myself just the way I was. And so I accepted myself in that way. And so what this did was also bring, build on self-confidence and self-worth, which are a lot of these areas that I really was lacking before my marriage. And I didn't really pay much attention to it before, but the one time I started to really pay attention to it right after the divorce, which triggered, activated me to look more within myself and started to see these patterns that I was attracting these other relationships before that were toxic. And so with that, what led was in this falling in love that it was just it's just like it just happened instantly, and so from now on, whenever I just like see myself in this loving vibrational energy. And so it doesn't matter if we're in certain chaos, in other dramas, in other traumas, or, rather situations, or if we get sick, right? Or if we feel like we've made a mistake somewhere, that love is still there. It's like this floodgate of like that just opens up, it's like this flow of energy from the universal love of infinite love that's there. And so, but really though, is this whole alchemizing of this whole heart chakra too, where these two, the upper heart chakra and the lower heart chakra, come together, and they make in this alchemical wedding of themselves and become their own partnership. And so it is this loving partnership, but there's also this other layer of looking at it from a divine feminine, divine masculine partnership too within. And I do talk about this in one of my earlier episodes on my podcast too. But so that in itself was, this alchemical wedding that was happening inside as well. If we were to bring in, some of the alchemical points about it too. Um, so I do have actually episode 43 on my podcast. There is a self-love guided meditation that I do highly suggest and recommend, to help with getting more in tune with yourself and activating more of your own self-love, and opening up more your heart, because a lot of the ascension and the ascended pathway is a love for self, as being the strongest foundation that will open up tons of doors of opportunities of all kinds. Like I mentioned, the huge, benefit and the flow of this energy. And we're all fully capable of having this because it is all within ourselves. And all of that, because we're all mirrors to one another. And what happens internally, it's reflected on the external world and our, situation. Of course, there is always a work in progress. Doesn't mean that everything's perfect once you fall in love with yourself. There's, but what it does, it helps you to be in a space of observing when things do come up, right? And looking at things and not getting so easily triggered as much, as before. Um, but, it's all part of the lessons and what we're learning and what we're mastering here in this lifetime. Being human and being in this form, but we're also being activated into these new humans, metamorphosis. So definitely has a lot of benefits to your own health in general. And this is what scientists have also been studying and discovering as well through a lot of their own new technology that they have, where they can do a lot more measurements now than they could before, and finding how um, the spiritual side matches to our physical body and what it does to it energetically, and making it much healthier and much stronger in that way. So, yeah, so and then, with the fear, one of the examples that I like to use is about the movie Star Wars, where Darth Vader, who decided that, well, he became very fear-based to the point that it started to create these branches of like revenge and all these other dark sides. That's why he was Darth Vader. He's a very dark being. And so if you notice that he was very, it seemed to like drain all his energy. So he looked like much older. Um, and so he looked like he was all, dismantling and all this other stuff and falling apart, and so that was a perfect example of demonstrating how like fear or any other shadow aspects can drain our energy and also shut down that flow of, what we have as an infinite source. So in self-love, though, falling in love with yourself, it opens up that gate. It's like this heaven within yourself. And in that heaven, you're opening up these gates of infinite love, which brings in infinite energy of abundance and prosperity and attraction to like healthier relationships of all kinds. Um, and just in general, feeling good about yourself, having more confidence, having more worth, and just being able to forgive yourself more and give yourself nurturing, self-care as well. So that is my very deep insight on this about falling in love. And I challenge you to fall in love with yourself because you're fully capable, you're loved, and you're lovable in every way. And just know that also falling in love also is a very sexy um way, to be. So it's very sexy. um So I am definitely, sending all these high vibes and love to you in your journey of your own self-love, and that you are always in love with yourself, and that you're always surrounded by love in all ways. And I'll catch you in another episode.